Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Sew HoneyBee. In today's video, we will be doing a sew along. We will be making the laptop bag from Sophisticated Crafts Designs. Now there are a lot of different details to this pattern. It comes in two versions, two sizes, and two finishing methods. Now in this sew along, you can pick whichever one you want. I'm going to give you the details to all of them. But this one here is the one that we make in today's tutorial and sew along. There are hidden connectors here for a crossbody strap, a slip pocket with a magnetic snap, a front zipper pocket that is really roomy, and on the back you have another really roomy zipper pocket, and I have added a slip pocket to the back, and I'll share that with you too. Now let's look at the inside. There are gussets on the side so that nothing falls out of your bag. Also, there is a slip pocket in the inside that is padded and quilted to keep the electronic that you choose to put in here safe. On this side, there is a mesh pocket so that you can put your chargers or whatever else you'd like to put in there. And again, this one's the one that we are going to be making in our sew along today. Now, let me share with you the details to this sew along. If I miss anything, it will be in the description below. Okay, now the sew along starts on February 11th, which is today, 2023. And it will run all the way to February 28th. I will pick a winner on March 1st, and that is 2023. Now there will be 3 different prices from 2 sponsors. The first one being Sophisticated Crafts Designs. Now, Jessie has graciously offered 2 prizes, the first one being a $25 gift card, and that is US dollars. Now, with that one, you can take it to any shop that you'd like. The second one is also a gift card, and that is to Jess's shop over at Oklaroots. Now, our third prize is from our second sponsor, which is Royal Pixie Custom Fabric, and it's for Pixie Fuse Interfacing Sample Pack. Now, I'd really like to thank the sponsors for our video today. Now, whether you make this bag all at once or extend it over a number of days, you can follow your progress through timestamps that I have added in the description below. So you'll find whatever step you're on, and you can just click there and it'll take you right to that step in the video. Now, if I forgot anything, I'll add it in the description below also. So now, whether you join us for the sew along, or you make this pattern afterwards, I know you'll like this bag. So now, let's get started. Let's start now with the D-ring tab, which is piece J. You will notice that I have cut it a little larger, and that's because I'm going to use a 1-inch D-ring. If you are not going to use a 3/4 inch D-ring, you need to cut the width of the D-ring tab to accommodate your D-ring. Okay, I've drawn a line down the center, put a piece of double stick tape. Now I'm going to fold the edges in to the center, right on that line. Now I'm going to top stitch on both sides. I have my stitch length for my sewing machine at a 5. Okay, there's my D-ring tab, and it's all top stitched. Now I want to fold it in 2 and cut it in half because I need 2 of them. Now I'm going to put my D-ring inside. There's both of my D-rings, and now I'm going to put these aside until I need them, and we'll go on to our next step. Now our next step is on page 12, and that's step 17 to 28, and it is for our handle. And you should have cut out 2 of them. I have cut 2 out of vinyl. I've drawn a line down both centers and put a piece of double stick tape. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did with the D-rings, and that is bringing the long edges into the center. If you're using cotton fabric for your handles, you'll want to be sure to interface them, and you can add foam into the center to make these handles softer. Okay, as you can see, I have not folded it completely into the center as I did the D-rings. There's just a little bit of room there in the center, and that is so that I can fold this a lot easier. Now you may notice that my handles are a little longer than the pattern called for. And that is because a lot of times I will be carrying this right on my arm. You can even make the handle even longer if you wanted to use it for a shoulder strap. That's the wonderful thing about sewing our own bags. We can do whatever we want with them. In step 21, she gives you a measurement as to where you are going to start your stitching. So I've marked it here. I'm going to sew down, across, all the way down, and then across here, and then stop right here. So I'm going to completely sew closed my folded edges. But on this folded edge, I'm going to leave it open. Now while sewing this edge, we want to really be careful because we are going to double fold this and then sew it again. Okay, now I'm on step 24, and that is taking these two ends right after our marking there where we stopped. Now we're going to take these two ends and we're going to clip them together. Now you may wonder why I'm adding so many clips. That is because I really want to make sure I am right on top of my stitching when I stitch this a second time. Now I want to start right here where I ended and then sew down because I'm making a rolled handle. I have put a clip on this side to help me with the fold on this side so it won't move. So I want to drop my needle right on top of that so that I can start right there again. So I'm going to pick my presser foot all the way up. Now in sewing this stitch for a rolled hem, we are actually going through 8 layers of vinyl or your exterior fabric. So now you can see how I went right on top of that previous stitch so that it looks like one line of stitching. Now I want to burn my threads. If your machine is not able to go through this many layers of fabric, you can just skip this section. Okay, now I'm going to do the other strap in the same manner and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now my handles are complete and now I can go on to the next step. Okay, so now we are on page 14 and that is the exterior assembly. So we're going to start off with the back Okay, so I have piece CC, which is my back main top. I have piece C1, which is 2 of them, and that is my pocket lining. And then I have my exterior piece, which is C. And as you can see, I've cut all the way across, and while I cut this, I place this right side up and my vinyl right side up. Now in the pattern, she has you cut this piece out of your fandom fabric, but as you can see, I've cut it out of vinyl. There's a reason for that. I am actually going to add an additional slip pocket to the back so that I can put additional magazines or anything I want to put in this back slip pocket. But if you are not going to put that additional slip pocket, you will cut this out of your fandom fabric. Okay, so now we are on step 29. Put on your zipper pull and then seal up the 2 edges here so that your zipper pull does not fall off. So now I want to grab, this is piece C1, my pocket lining. Okay, now my lining is right side up and my zipper is right side up as well. I want to clip across the top and then baste this on using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, just like that. Now I've got to find my center. I'm just going to mark that. Just like that. Okay, now I've marked the center right there. And I've also put markings here. When sewing on my zipper, I want to start and stop right in this intersection here. Go across and stop there. Okay, so now I am putting my vinyl side up and my lining side down, matching those centers, clipping across, and I'm now going to sew my zipper on using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I have switched out to a zipper foot as well. Okay, so since my markings are on this side, I want to start on this side. And I want to lift my presser foot all the way up. Make sure my thread doesn't go in there. And drop my needle right at that intersection, right to where I want to start. Okay, as you can see, I've started and stopped right at those intersections, back stitching on both of them. Now I want to grab a very sharp pair of scissors and snip right into those corners, making sure that I do not clip my stitching. Now I want to turn my pocket to the right side. Okay, now I want to grab my side and fold it back on itself. I'm going to put a little clip right here. And then up here on this top, meet your fabric to the top of your zipper. Okay, and then we are going to sew this across, finishing off that edge. Now before you sew these edges, make sure that your zipper pull is in the center. Okay, now you can see how that finished off that pocket really nicely. Okay, so now we are on step 37, and that is to top stitch this section of the pocket. But before I do, I really want to make sure this is really finger pressed really well. Okay, so that's all top stitched. Now I want to get my remaining pocket lining, C1. Find the center of this one as well. And now I want to put these two right sides together, my two pocket linings, matching up the center. So now, first of all, I've got to find the center now of my zipper on the top. Now I want to match up the top of my zipper to my panel. Now I want to sew my lining to my zipper, and I do not want to go into this area here because I have to close out this pocket, okay? And this is a 1/8 inch seam allowance. As you can see, there is a size discrepancy, and now I want to cut that away. Now I wanted to add a note here, because if you are going to bind this bag, you want to make sure that your pocket corners are going to be out of your seam allowance, okay? So if you are going to bind this bag, just cut a little bit off, just like that. Okay, so now you can see when I go to bind this bag, it's going to be completely out of the seam. Now I want to close out my sides, so I'm going to put this side up and close out my side. Now if you are going to birth this bag, you are going to leave the bottom open, so you can fold this up here probably about 3/8 of an inch and then sew up your sides. But if you are going to bind the bag, you want to close out all three sides. Okay, so now my pocket is completely closed out because I'm going to bind this bag. Okay, now I want to trim down my zipper. Now I want to get piece CC, which is my back main top. Now I want to find the center, and I want to put these right sides together, matching my centers, and then clip it across the top. Now I want to sew with using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now before I turn this, I want to remove the bulk in the corners. This is really important, especially if you are binding this bag. Now I want to top stitch across the top. Okay, so now my back panel is complete as to the pattern. But remember, I wanted to add a slip pocket to the back. Now this fabric I have cut out to the same size as my slip pockets for the interior. But you will notice that in doing so, this slip pocket winds up covering up the zipper. So what I need to do is I need to cut it down. Now I have my cotton fabric and I have backed it with Royal Pixie custom fabric interfacing. As you already know, they are one of the sponsors for this video. And this one is the Pixie Fuse Premium Interfacing. Okay. And I really like it because it's not too stiff and it's not too light either. Now, like I said, I want to cut down this slip pocket just a little bit. So I'm going to cut off 1.5 inches. I have to put them right sides together. And now I want to sew across the top using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want to turn out this pocket. I really like this fabric. It's so pretty. Dahlias are my favorite flower. Now the reason why I'm really clipping this at the top instead of ironing it or anything is because of the lining I am using. The lining is a waterproof utility fabric and it melts with the iron really badly. Okay, so now I want to top stitch across the top. Okay, now I want to grab my panel again and I want to clip my slip pocket to my panel. And now I want to base my slip pocket to my back panel. Now you may be wondering why I used utility fabric for the lining instead of waterproof canvas like I'm doing for the interior of the bag. Because since I will be binding this bag, I want to reduce as much bulk as I can out of the seam. Now on page 17, step 48, she gives you a measurement as to what this should measure out to. Now if you are expanding or reducing your pattern, that isn't going to help you out, okay? But this will. Grab one of your interior lining pieces. As you can see, I'm going to be quilting this, so it's got quilting marks on it. But put it on top of your panel and it should come out to the right size. So let me put these on top of each other. And as you can see, they are both just right. So now I know that my panel is good and I can set this aside. We have just finished our back panel and now we are ready to work on our front panel. So now I have my zipper with the zipper pull and I've burned both edges. I have piece A2 in waterproof canvas and that is my pocket lining for this pocket here. I also have piece AA, which is my front main top. Okay, and then I have piece A, which is my front bottom. I wanted to add a little note here. When cutting out piece A, make sure that your fabric or your vinyl is right side up and your pattern piece is placed on it right side up as well, because you want to make sure that this cutout here doesn't wind up over here. Now the slip pocket has a swoosh in it and I want to make sure that my pocket is on this side. Okay, so again, vinyl or fabric piece right side up, pattern piece right side up as well. Now steps 49 to 54 are if you have a logo tag. You will put it right here on the center of your top piece. Okay, I do not have a logo tag, so I'm going to go on to the next step. Okay, so now I need one piece of lining, my zipper, so I'm going to put these pieces aside. Now in making this pocket, we are going to be doing the same thing that we did for our back pocket. So you want to make sure your pocket lining is going in the right direction because it is in fact a rectangle and not a square. Now you will notice that in the other pocket, I made my zipper closing from left to right. Since this is going to be on the opposite side of the bag, I want it closing in the opposite direction. So now my zipper is closing to the right. So I want to clip it across the top and then sew using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now I want to find my center. So now in the same manner, I'm going to put my two centers together. I oiled my machine. Okay. Just like before, cut into the corner using a very sharp pair of scissors. Okay, just like that. Okay, and once again, make sure your zipper pull is in the center. Now I'm going to pull this back, exposing my side panel there, and match it up to the top. And fold it down here as well. Do the same thing on this side. Okay, now I want to sew across. Okay, so now I want to top stitch this across here. But before I do that, I'm going to finger press my panel back again so it's right where I want it, because I want it to look really clean from the inside. Okay, so now I want to get my remaining pocket lining, and I want to make sure that they are right sides together. Okay, and now I only want to baste on my zipper area so that I can close out this pocket. So now once again, I'm trimming down the pocket area so they correspond with each other. Now once again, I want to make sure that this pocket is outside of my binding area, which it is, so that I'm not going to cut it down any. So now I want to close out this pocket. And once again, if you are going to be binding this bag, you are going to close out all three sides. But if you are going to birth the bag, you are going to leave the bottom portion of this pocket open. It should look like step number 68 in your pattern instructions. Okay, so now I'm going to find my centers on my top portion, my top panel, which is piece AA, and I want to find the center of this panel as well. So now I want to place these right sides together, clip them across the top, And now I'm going to sew across the top, and I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I forgot to cut my zippers down, so I will add a note to remind you of that, because especially if you're binding this, you want to make sure it's out of the seam allowance. I gotta sharpen my scissors. I use this little one here from Fiskars. I've had these scissors for so many years now, and because I can sharpen them, I don't have to keep buying scissors over and over again, nor do I have to take them in to be sharpened. What do you do? Do you just go and buy another pair of scissors, or do you sharpen them as well? Leave it in the comments below. I'm curious. Okay, so now I want to top stitch this closed at the top. In closing this out, you really want to make sure that your lining is out of the way. Okay, just like we did the back, I'm placing this on top of one of my lining pieces to make sure that they are the same size. If they are not, you need to be sure to cut it down. But if all of your seam allowances are correct, they should be the same size. So now I'm going to put this aside for right now and go on to the next step. Okay, so now we're ready to do our front slip pocket. I have piece B1, and that is the lining, and as you can see, it is out of a very thin utility fabric that is still waterproof, my cotton fabric, and it is backed with the premium interfacing. Now you can either fuse or sew in fleece into this pocket here in the middle by sandwiching it together. But I am not going to be putting any electronics or anything inside this pocket. So I'm going to just go ahead and leave it without any padding, just like I did my back slip pocket. I want to clip and sew across the top using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want to grab a pair of pinking shears and pink the edges of this pocket. Now if you do not have a pair of pinking shears, you can just put little snips in here and it'll work just the same. Now in turning your lining to the back, you want to be really careful so that you don't have any of the lining showing to the front. You should be able to see a small amount of the lining, just like that. Okay? And as you can hear, the gardeners are here. So I'm going to take a break and then I will be back after they're gone. Now, I want to make sure that the black lining isn't showing from this side. Okay? So as you can see there, there's just a scant amount on the other side. So now I'm going to top stitch this using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now I am ready for my snap, and I want to put this piece on my slip pocket. So I've already marked here. Okay, so now I just want to get my blade and carefully open up both of these slits here. And then I want to put a dollop of fray check on it because this fabric frays. So I want to really be sure to secure these fibers. Okay, now I want to get a piece of Decaville and cut the slits in it as well. And now finish attaching my magnet. Okay, and now my magnet is on there and it's really secure. And now, because I have put that piece of duct tape there, it will not damage my fabric on this side. So now we're still working on the exterior assembly, but now we're doing the main body. And that is starting with step 86. But first of all, I want piece A, which is my front body, piece B, which is our slip pocket, piece C, and remember I added the slip pocket here. If you add the slip pocket, it's going to look like this. But if you chose not to add the slip pocket, this bottom portion will be out of your fandom fabric. The other thing that I will need are my strap extenders, and that is piece L. And there should be a total of 6 of those. I also need my 2 D-rings and my 2 handles. So now we are starting on step 86, and that is putting in our D-rings. So I'm going to leave the D-rings up there and put these other pieces aside that we will not be using. So for this step, all we need is our front and our back panel and the 2 D-rings. Okay, so I'm going to take off the D-rings for right now, off our tabs, and I'm going to set these aside. I'm going to start off with my front panel, and here I have piece A1, and I want to put it right on here and clip the bottom portion because I want to transfer my markings, and I want to really make sure that this does not move on me. First of all, I want to transfer over my handle placement. I want to take a little snip out of both of those. I also want to take a little snip into my center. Now this here, this marking is the next one that I will be doing. This is where our D-ring tabs are going to go. But, let me grab a tab. If you will notice, the D-ring tab here is for a 3/4 of an inch D-ring. But my D-ring is an inch long. So I want to make sure that I make that to accommodate my D-ring. So I'm going to change it on my pattern piece so that when I go and I transfer that same marking to my other one, they are both going to be the same size. I don't want to take a chance of my marker bleeding through onto my fabric. So I've moved my vinyl out of the way. So you can see here that I have extended it just a little further to accommodate that 1 inch D-ring. So now you can see that it's just like that. Okay. Now I want to make sure it's all lined up. I want to make sure there's nothing behind it except what I want to cut. Okay. And now I'm very carefully cutting into my vinyl. Now before I take anything apart, I want to make sure that that's going to fit, and it does. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to add a clip there until I can come back to it. Now I'm going to do the same thing to my back panel. Now it may seem odd to you that we're putting the D-ring connector on the same side, but remember these are on opposite sides. So although it seems to be on the same side, it's not. I have my panel right side up. I have my tab wrong side up. Okay, so that when I'm looking at it this way, they should both be right sides together. Okay, so let me put this here like that. Now let me flip it around. And now it should look like this. Okay, I want to make sure that my tab is straight first of all, and I want to sew just right here. Now I want to really be sure not to extend past my tab. So I only want to sew inside my tab. And as you can see, the majority of the tab is up here because we've got to fold it back. Okay, so it should look like this, and your opening should still be open right there. Okay, I want to get one of my D-rings, put it on here, just like that. Now I want to fold my D-ring back and put it back inside this hole. And now this is a tab that we've just sewn. I want to move that out of the way. Then I want to grab the next portion of my tab, and I want to flip it going this way so that my tab on this side is completely out of the way. So all that is showing is this portion here, and this is the portion that we're going to sew now. And I want to make sure that the D-ring is out of the way as well. Okay, as you can see, I really didn't even catch that on that side. You know what? Let me sew that one more time, because these D-rings are going to be holding a lot of weight. So I just want to make really certain that I catch that. Okay, much better. So you can see there that I was able to catch that. Okay, and then from this side, that's how it looks. So now you have a choice. You can either put a rivet right here, or you can stitch across here. I am actually going to put a rivet, but I am not going to put the rivet until I do my ties in the back. Okay, so I'm going to put this one aside, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other one in the same manner. Okay. Okay, and there's the second one. Okay, now I need to get my connectors. So now, that's where I want both of these ties to be. So I am actually going to sew these ties together right there so that they will not move on me. And now it'll be so much easier to put my connectors on. Okay, so now let me do that to the other one. Okay, so now you can see that even though we put them on the same side, as these are put together, they're on opposite sides. Okay, so now, I want to take a piece of this, and I'm going to clip it here, just right there. And now I'm going to sew it really well right here. Okay, just like that. And you can see now that that is really holding on to there. So now when I put a rivet here, it'll make this even more sturdier. So now I want to put this all the way down here, and I want to reinforce it at the bottom. And now I want to trim off the excess. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now this one's done. Whoops. Now I want to do the same thing to this one here. Okay, so now we still need to do our rivets, but that's later on, like step 111 or 112. So now I am ready for my magnetic snap right here. So now I'm going to place this on here just like that. Remember, we have a snap here. Now we've got to put the other side of the snap on this side. Okay, just like that. So I have a pin here, and I'm going to put some of the ink on my snap portion, line it up, and then push it down. What that should do is transfer the ink right where I want it. Now I can take this off. Now, in doing your snap, you either want to move your lining out of the way because you don't want to put a hole in your pocket. Okay, so you can move your lining out of the way, or if you have a small mat like I do, you can put it in between, so that that way you can be sure that it's not going to cut into your pocket. So now I have my two pieces. Need a piece of backing knife. Okay, so now I want to put this right on that center, mark my two legs, and I want to lift up, making sure that I'm only cutting through my exterior fabric. And even though this is vinyl, I'm still going to add just a little dollop of frayed check to the back. I usually don't, but this pocket here is going to have a lot of wear on it. So now I want to get my other piece of my magnet, and I want to put it inside of here. Oh, I put the frayed check in the wrong area. Okay, that's okay. I can do it again. Okay, so now get this. Now I just want to cut off this tip. Being careful not to cut my pocket. Okay. So now put another piece. Okay. So now my pocket is still safe. It has no holes in it. Okay, now I'm on step 110. Now I want to put that magnetic snap together. Line up my edges. So now I want to baste this all the way around with a 1/8 inch seam allowance or anything smaller than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, see how my lining is a little bit outside? Now I just want to trim up anything that I have to. Okay, and I think that's the only spot on that one. Okay, and so now my pocket works really well. And also you can't see any of my black lining showing up on that side, so that looks really good. Okay, so now I am ready for my rivets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my D-ring going down so that I can mark right in the center of that D-ring, so I can mark where I want to put my rivet. Okay? Okay, so now I'm ready to get my rivets. I have 2 rivets here, and you can see that the 2 caps are out of gunmetal, and then these ones here are out of silver. I have very few gunmetal rivets, but I have a lot of the silver ones. So I'm going to use the caps for the front, so you see gunmetal, but you won't see the back, so I'm going to use the silver. Okay? It extends my rivets a little further that way. I've already marked right here where I want my rivet. Again, my silver rivet in the back and gunmetal in the front. So it'll match my D-ring. Just like that. Okay. Okay, so now let me do the same thing to this one. Okay. So now I'm ready to set these rivets. Okay, so there I have a gunmetal D-ring and a gunmetal rivet, and then a silver one in the back. No one will ever know, except us. Okay, so there's my 2 D-rings complete. Now, she has it to where she puts a rivet in right here at her zippers. But, let me think. I think I'm okay. But if you want to put a rivet right here at each end of your zipper, you can go ahead and do that. And right here too. Okay, but I'm not going to put a rivet. So I'm going to go on to the next step. Okay, now I'm ready for the handles. Okay, so now, remember we marked where our handles placement is supposed to go. So now, when my handle is down, I want it to look like that. When it is picked up, I want it to be right side. So this is the right side, this is the wrong side. Okay, so now, let me get 2 clips. Here's my cut right here, and I want it to go on the outside of the cut. So, put that right there. She also gives you a measurement in step 115 if you didn't make these marks, and you can just measure that measurement from the center and put your handles there. Make sure they're straight so I can see the wrong side when they're down and then right side when they're up. So now I want to baste these handles on using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure your D-ring is out of the way. Okay, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to the back panel. Okay, now I am on step 116. Now, just like we reinforce this handle, the weight to be carried by this strip here, we need to do the same thing with the handles. So these handles here need a weight supporter in these strips. That's what they are. So do not skip this part here, because you may not think it to be so, but if you are carrying anything that is heavy in this bag, you want to make sure that it is supported not just by the handles, but by the hem as well. Okay? And now I want to tack them to the top by basting them. So you will see that with these ties here, they stabilize the weight that is in this bag, so that our handles or crossbody strap D-rings will not be torn out or damaged. Okay, so do not skip that part. Okay, so now I'm going to add these to my front portion. Okay, so now our panel is complete, but just remember, if you are going to birth this bag, this has to be open. If you are going to bind this bag, this has to be closed. Okay, so since I'm binding it, I'm going to just go ahead and close my zipper. And this is the front portion. Now here's the back portion. The same thing. If you are going to bind it, this pocket has to be closed. If you are going to birth it, it's got to be open. Also, your zipper has to be open as well. I'm going to actually put this zipper to the middle on both of these. Okay. Okay, so now our exteriors are all done, and now we're ready to go on to our interior assembly, and starting off with our sleeve pockets. Okay, now before we go on to all of our interior pockets and slip pockets and things, I'm going to take a little detour because I would like to quilt both lining pieces, which is piece A1 and piece, let's see, what is this one? And this is, oh, they're both A1. Okay, so I'm wanting to quilt both of these pieces. As you can see, I've already marked my lines on it. And I've marked an arrow that is directional. Now let me show you why I did that. That is because this is the bottom and this is the top to coincide with this slip pocket. So you see when I put that on there like that, the quilting will still keep going in the same way. And then I have this piece here, which is the other side, and our mesh pocket will go on this one. Let me put these to a side. Now, if you are not going to be quilting your interior pieces, you can just go ahead and get a piece of double stick tape, tape it down, and then go on to our next step. But since I'm quilting it, I'm going to put this in a time lapse. But before that, I want to really quick show you something. I'm going to be binding this bag. You can do this either way. You see how I've cut the foam completely out of the seam allowance. It's so much easier to cut down your foam, then attach it to your lining, than to sew around and then try and cut it out individually, little snippets. So much easier to do it this way, okay? So now I'm going to just go ahead and start quilting. Okay, there it is all quilted. And as you can see, all my foam is out of my seams on the outside. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do this to the other lining piece and my slip pocket. So now I'm going to do the same thing to this lining piece and my slip pocket. But with my slip pocket, as you can see, I have not cut down my foam from this seam up here because I do not want all that cushion in that seam there. So I'm going to cut it away out of my seam allowance on here so that when I put this right sides together with my lining, there won't be a bunch of bulk here or a bunch of bulk in the sides. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and then I will be back. Okay, I'm on step 123 and that is on page 32. And now I have piece DD, which is my sleeve snap, okay, and I've cut one of those out of the fabric and I've backed it with the interfacing. Okay, now I've drawn a line down the center and I'm getting double stick tape. So now I'm going to remove the tape. I want to now fold my edges into the center. Now if you are using fabric like I am, you don't necessarily have to use the double stick tape. You can definitely just iron this. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now it's time to do our sleeve pocket for the computer. Okay, now here's where you have a choice. You can choose what you want to pad out the sleeve pocket with. As you can see here, I used foam and I quilted it. I also cut the foam 1/2 inch smaller on all sides. And as you can see, there's already stitching holes in it because I forgot to turn on the camera. So I had to take it apart. But anyways, now this is how we are going to put this slip pocket together. I've got my lining portion and I'm going to clip it to the top. Okay, now I want to sew across the top using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now clip your corners here, making sure you do not clip your stitches. And what you're doing is you're reducing the bulk in those edges there. Now finger press it open and turn it, and then clip it across the top. Okay, and so now you can see that there's a little fabric that you can see on the lining side, and you can't see it from this side over here. Okay, move this one over a little bit more. Okay, so now I want to top stitch at 1/8 inch seam allowance and then baste it all the way closed all the way around. So now you can see that our slip pocket is very padded, but yet in my seams here, when I go to bind this bag, there's hardly anything in that edge there. This seam allowance only has 3 layers of fabric: the cotton fabric, the interfacing, and the canvas fabric. So that really reduces the bulk out of those seams. I want to get my lining piece, and I want to make sure my arrow is facing up, because I quilted this so that it would continue with the quilting. Okay, so you can see the quilting is continuing here from the lining to the slip pocket. So now I want to clip the way around. And I've marked right here where my center is, and like this side, I want to put that right there and clip it. Make sure it's straight. Okay, so now I'm ready for my snaps for this portion here. Okay, I have my 4 pieces to my snap. Now let me get the paper to make sure I'm doing it correctly. Okay, so now first thing I want to do is I want to mark here to put my snap. Okay, I want to grab my hole punch, punch out the hole there. Okay, so now since this is going to be the outermost portion, I've got my snap on that side, and this piece here is the one that goes to the snap, to the cap. Okay, and then take this tool, put it in there, and then hammer it just like that. That portion is set. Now I don't want to put my snap so that this is so tight on there like that. I want to give it a little bit of ease here, because you want it to have a little bit of give when your computer is in there, okay, your laptop. Okay, so now let me make sure that's good there. Yeah, it gives me a little bit of slack and still puts it on there really well. Now let me punch out that hole. Okay, so now I want to put this through here. So now I'm going to use this one that right there. Grab this one and put that on it like that. Okay, and that is on that really well now. Now on the other laptop bags that I did, I used a plastic snap. This one here is a metal one, so it's the first time I've used these ones. But I'm not worried about it because it's smooth back here. But if I had to do this again, I would have added the snap before I added this lining. I would have added it to the front, and then so that when I sewed the lining portion to my front panel, it would have been hidden. Okay, so now I want to baste my snap thing on the top, and I want to baste it using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm really happy with that. So now I'm going to unsnap that. Okay, so now I'm going to baste all the way around. Okay, so now the reason why I'm lining it up with this one, you can see here that my slip pocket is just a little bit smaller. Okay, and that might have been because when I did the quilting. Okay, but that's okay because I'm going to really take note of that to make sure that when I sew my panels together, that'll still be caught in there, and then that won't be any problem. Okay, so now I'm done with this, so now I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to grab my mesh pocket. Okay, so now I'm ready to do my slip pocket. So I have my fabric for the slip pocket, although it isn't mesh fabric. And get double stick tape and add it to the edge. Okay, so this is a lightweight fabric. Okay, it is not mesh, but it'll work the same for what I'm wanting it to do. So I want to expose one layer of tape. Probably be easier to do it this way. Okay. It'll be much easier to do the other side. Okay, just like that. Okay, and now I can trim down the excess on both sides. Now I can pull back one small section and put my tag in there, just like that. You know, there are certain steps in all patterns that really work well using double stick tape. And this definitely is one of them. Doing it this way, it's a lot easier. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and put another line of stitching across the top using that 1/8 inch seam allowance again. Now I've got my panel here. So in steps 141 to 146 is where we place our mesh pocket to our panel. Now she gives you a measurement to where you are going to measure from the top edge to the top edge of your slip pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that, and then I'll be right back. Now, the reason why I'm marking it in chalk is so that you can see it. Okay, so now I want to line up my top edge of my slip pocket or mesh pocket to that line. Okay, here's a couple of pins to hold it in place here. Now you will notice that in the picture and here as well, there's extra at the bottom, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to baste my mesh pocket to my panel and then trim it away. Okay, so now I want to trim away the excess in my slip pocket. Okay, so now I have to put a divider in my pocket here. And again, I've marked it with chalk. Okay, and so that's so that you can see it. Okay. Okay, so now my mesh pocket is complete. So I'm going to put this aside and go on to the next step. Okay, so now it's time to do the gussets. Now you have a choice here. In the pattern, she uses foam in this gusset, but I want it to be a little bit more structured, so I'm actually using Decaville Heavy. Now I'm going to put double stick tape down the center and then place the Decaville on top. Now on page 35, she gives you the length that you will be cutting your zipper. Now put both of your pulls on your zipper and don't forget to burn the ends. One on each end going in the opposite direction. Okay, now I'm on step 149. I want to put my zipper tape and my vinyl right sides together. Now as you can see, I've cut my zipper tape longer than I needed it, and that's so that I can move my zipper pulls out of the way when I'm sewing this gusset. I'm basting this on using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. So now add your lining right side down against the wrong side of your zipper. So your gusset should look like this. The vinyl is right side up. The zipper and the lining are right side down. Okay. So now I'm going to baste using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now you don't have to baste this again. You can go ahead and sew this on using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The reason why I'm basting this on again is because I'm going to baste both sides of my gusset to my zipper and then switch out to a zipper foot and then do my final stitching. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Now you may be wondering why I'm using so many clips in this zipper. The reason is because even though I've sewn for many years, sewing this style of zipper gusset is very new to me. So I don't have the confidence yet to just sew it with just a few clips, or I've even seen bag makers sew it with no clips at all. For me, until I get a little bit better at this skill, I'm going to be using a lot of clips. but you can use as many or as few as you'd like. Okay, now I'm going to baste this side, and I'm going to baste it with my zipper up because I want to make sure that I don't get the lining in my stitching. Now I want to get my other lining piece and put it right sides together with this lining piece on this side. Now it may seem a little bit strange to you that I show my zippers wonky and all. That is because for me they look great because I can see the progress that I'm making with my zippers. Even though my zippers aren't fabulous yet, I know one day they will be. So in my pictures, some of my zippers look a little bit wavy and wobbly and the whole thing, but they still work. And for me, they look fabulous because I can see that I'm getting better and better as time goes on. Okay, so now I'm going to baste this side at a 1/8 inch seam allowance as well. Now I've changed out my presser foot to a zipper foot. So now I'm going to sew this again using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to make sure that all my lining pieces and vinyl pieces are out of the way. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to sew the other side in the same manner. I'm really happy with this, and so now I'm going to baste these sides over here and top stitch across the top. But before I do the stitching, I'm going to switch back out to my regular presser foot. So now my zipper pulls are over on this side. I'm actually going to cross over and do the top stitching on this side because I want to make sure that this zipper gusset is really going to be straight as I can do it. Okay, so now let me cut off my strings, and I want to push over my zipper pulls. Okay, because now I'm going to cross over. Okay, let me get another bobbin. At least I didn't run out of bobbin while I was doing my top stitching. That would have been really sad. Okay. We got through it. Okay, the moment of truth. Okay. I'm really happy with that. Went off a little bit right there. Okay. So now I want to get my zipper scissors and cut down the zipper. Step 158 gives you the length that you will be cutting your zipper. Now, whether you are doing the slim version with just a zipper or the regular version with the gussets on the side, all the details are pretty much the same. So in both versions, you're going to follow the steps that I'm doing. The only difference is, in the slim version, you are only going to be having a zipper. For the regular version, you're going to have the gussets. So now, let's go on to our next step. Now we are on step 159. I want to grab both gussets and put them right sides together. And then on the other side, the right side of my exterior will go together with the right side of my zipper. Just like that. That's one side. And that's the other side. Now I want to sew this using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So now I want to cut down these corners because I want to reduce the bulk in these edges, especially with the decavill. Because that's pretty thick there. Now I want to do the same thing to this side over here. Now I want to make sure that none of this is twisted. Okay, I want to turn it to the right side and really kind of go over these seams here. Now I'm on step 163, and that is basting these two sides so that these 3 layers are now one piece, and top stitching across here. So I'm going to go ahead and clip it all the way down. Now, if you're doing the slim version, you are going to jump ahead to page 40, which is the final assembly. But for us, doing the regular version, we are going to add our little gussets right here. So that's where we're at. And that is step 164. So I'm going to put this aside and grab piece H, which is our gusset. Okay, so now I have my interior side gussets, and this is for the regular. Okay, and there's 2 of these. And this is a cotton fabric, and I've backed it with the Royal Pixie interfacing, the premium. So now get a pair of pinking shears. Okay. If you do not have a pair of pinking shears, you can grade out this seam, meaning that you will cut each layer in different layers so that there's not such a harsh cut off right there, that you can grade out your seam. Okay, now I want to turn my gusset. I really like this interfacing. If you've watched some of my other videos, you've probably seen how I have to wind up getting out a domestic machine to sew cotton fabrics. But with this one, it did just fine with my machine, with my industrial. Okay, so now I want to top stitch the bottom and the top here using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I ran out of bobbin. Okay, so now let me finish this off here. Okay, I want to see which side is the prettiest side. Both sides are pretty. Okay, so now I'm going to fold it in half, and going the other direction, and then clip it. Okay, now I want to sew 1/8 of an inch going this way. Now this is a finishing seam here, so I want to burn my threads. Let me turn this down. Oh goodness, it's so high. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now on step 170, she gives you a measurement, and I've already marked it there with chalk so that you can see it. And now, let me open my gusset. I want this side, which is my top stitching, towards the inside, and I want to put it right at that portion right there. Now, let's see. As you can see, I cut my gusset because I wanted this gusset to be just a little bit wider to accommodate a little bit more items that I want to put in this bag. But in doing so, I did not change out the length or the width of the bottom of this gusset. So what I can do is I'm going to cut off a tiny bit here, 1/4 of an inch. Let me see. 3/8 on that side. 3/8 on that side. So I'm going to cut off 3/8 because I really do want to use these. This fabric is so pretty. I want to use it everywhere I can. So I'm going to go ahead and base this at 3/8 of an inch and then cut it down. So I'll do that and then be right back. Okay, so let's try this again. I've marked right there where she gives you the measurement in the pattern. Now I want to pin this gusset right, maybe, pin this gusset right there on this side first, okay? Now let me see, when I go to pin it on the other side, I can stretch it out a little bit. Oh my goodness, dropping everything. Okay. It'll be a lot easier to pin this side. Okay, so now in looking at it, I am right at my 3/8 mark that she gives you. Okay. And you can see my top stitching on this side, on the inside. And then on this side, when it opens up, you can see it like that. Okay. Now let me go to the other side and do the same thing. Okay, so on the inside lining portion, it looks like this. Then on the outside, it looks like that. Okay. And now remember, if you have a directional fabric, you'll probably want the direction on this side, okay? So that when you open it up, you'll see the right direction. Okay, so now I've got it basted using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, and see how right here and right here I'm a tiny bit off still? That's okay because it's still within the seam allowance that I'm going to use to bind this bag. So that's okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this side. So now we're on the final assembly. So let me grab all my pieces. So I have the gusset that we just completed. I have my 2 exteriors and my 2 interiors. She has it lined up so that the front exterior goes with the mesh pocket. So I've got those 2 first of all, and my gusset. Now first of all, I want to find my center points. Then I want to find my quarter points. Let's see. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay, I'm going to start with the exterior. So I want to put right sides together. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to clip my gusset base to the bottom, okay, and then start going all the way around. Okay, and my top centers should match up as well. I have a little extra here. I'm going to ease that over into the corner. Okay, just like that. Okay. Now, whether you are birthing this bag or binding this bag, this is the same step. If you're doing the slim version, in this area, you are going to actually be clipping the actual zipper tape to the exterior. Okay, that's all basted on. Okay, so now I want to baste this all the way around using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now right here where our handle is, you want to go easy on your machine, whether it's industrial or domestic. Okay. What is it? Okay. Okay, where's this area right here? Okay. Okay, so here is where the difference takes place in birthing or binding this bag. Now, if you are birthing this bag, number one, you want to make sure that this pocket is not sewn on the bottom. Number two, you want to make sure that your zipper is open because that's where you're going to birth this bag through. And you are going to grab your slip pocket and you're going to match up here, okay? Your lining with your lining. And you're going to clip it going all the way around and then sew it. But if you are binding this bag, like I am, number one, your pocket has to be closed off on the bottom. Number two, we are putting wrong sides to wrong sides here with our exterior and our lining, and then clipping all the way around. So that way we will have our edge here to bind, and then our exteriors will be like that. So go ahead and decide which one you want to do, and then go ahead and clip it all the way around. Now I'm really glad that I chose to really reduce the bulk and keep the foam out of my seams, because this is going to be a lot easier to bind. Now, because I did not catch all of my fabric when I did my basting stitch, I am going to sew this using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You have a choice whether or not you want to use a 1/4 or a 3/8. And I'm going to sew with my mesh pocket facing up. And I should have actually put my clips going the other way, but it's okay. It's so much easier to open out your zipper than going around this top corner. So now if you're birthing this bag, turn the bag right side out through the pocket and then sew the pocket closed. Okay, so I am really happy with that. So now I'm going to stitch this again because I used a basting stitch, a larger stitch, just in case there were tucks or anything happened that I had to take it apart. So now I'm going to do the real stitching, and it's going to be a shadow stitch right on this side, but it'll be just a shorter stitch length so that it'll give this seam a lot of stability. Okay, so now you can see that stitching is right next to the other one. Okay, so now let me look at it again. Okay. Okay, I really like the way this is coming out. Okay. Okay, and my deckaville is wrinkling here, but that's okay. So now I'm going to do the same step on the other side. So let me turn it again. Okay, so if you're birthing this bag, your bag should look like steps 185. So this seam here should be completely enclosed. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to this side here. I'm going to find all of my centers. So now I want to match exterior to exterior, matching all of my centers and clip all the way around. That matched right up right there. So I know I'm doing good so far. Now you're going to baste it using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now since I did my seam allowance on this side at 3/8 of an inch, I'm going to base this on using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to make sure that I capture all of my fabric and all of my layers. Okay, so now I'm going to start at the top since that is the easiest portion. And I'm going to put my stitch length back at a 5. Now I'm coming up to my D-ring, and I want to fill right here in front of my needle to make sure that my D-ring is out of the way and I'm not going to run over it and break my needle. Okay, so now I've clipped this here so that it's not in the way and it doesn't get moved and it will stay straight. And as you could see, I made sure that there was no tucks in my outer exterior. Okay, so that's all on there and I'm really happy with it. Now, if you are going to birth this bag, this pocket here has to be left open and your zipper has to be left open. Now this seam here should already be finished. So you're going to move your gusset out of the way. This is a seam that we just sewed our exterior to. Then you are going to get your lining and you're going to put them right sides together. So you are going to put the bottom with the bottom and the top with the top. You're going to clip it all the way around. Now, in clipping this, you should not be seeing any of your gusset. Your gusset should all be enclosed inside of here. So it's going to look like that. Okay, so on one side you'll have your exterior, which is your back, and then on the other side you're going to have your lining, that is your computer or your laptop sleeve. And then clip it all the way around. Now, since I am binding this bag, what I am going to do is I am going to put wrong sides together. Now, I want to match up all my centers and then clip going all the way around. So in looking at it, I should see the right side of my gusset lining and the right side of my sleeve pocket. So now clip all the way around. Okay, so here is where my lining went bigger. Okay, So now what I want to do first of all is I want to see, will it line up to there? Yeah, it will. I can be okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim away this lining here and then pin it. So now I'm going to sew going all the way around using a 3/8 inch seam allowance, just like I did down here. Now, especially if you are making the slim version, you want your seam allowance to be at 1/4 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch because of that zipper. So now, let's see, I'm gonna have to move the camera back over. Backstitch to reinforce your snap. Okay, so now I want to do a shorter stitch length seam all the way around. Okay, so now if you are birthing this bag, you are done. Except, wait, you're not done. I forgot. You have to make sure that both of your pockets are closed out. This pocket and this pocket. And you are done. Now, before we put our binding on, you want to turn the bag out, look over all the edges and everything, make sure you're happy with it. I am happy with it all. And so now I'm going to go ahead and turn it wrong side out again and then do the binding. Now, binding with waterproof canvas is another skill that I'm trying to get better at. So I did a bag the other day and I put double stick tape on it and it came out so much easier. So this is a 1/4 inch double stick tape and I'm putting it right on the edge. This is definitely one of those things that double stick tape is really good for. Okay, don't want to get it near my sticker. Okay. Because my problem is that when I put on the binding, it moves on me from the other side. So I don't want that to happen. And in putting the double stick tape on it, makes it so much easier. Okay, so now to put this right on the stitching line and stick it there. Go all the way around. Now I'm going to fold it over and clip it. Again, I'm starting on the top, and I'm going to fold this inside like that for right now, so it's out of my way. And now, since my seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch, I'm going to sew on my binding using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so here's my end. Looks good. Yep. Now on this side. Now, in turning it out on my corners, see, now I'm turning it out, my corners look really good. I'm really happy with that. So now I'm pleased with that. So now to go to the other side and do the binding on this side, and then we will be done. Okay. Okay, now to do the same thing on this side. Now, if it worked on one side, maybe it'll work on two. Then I won't have to use a gazillion clips. Okay, once again, I'm going to start at the bottom, work my way all around. Okay, it looks like it still does need a few clips because it's coming unstuck in certain areas, but not nearly as many. Now, just like before, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, when turning out this bag, be careful with these gussets here. I really like this bag and the way it came out. I have my front slip pocket with a magnetic snap, a really nice big zipper pocket in the front. I have a slip pocket in the back, another nice, really nice big pocket in the back as well. These gussets on the side give a little bit of a pop of color with that fabric. Here's my laptop sleeve, and it's fully padded and quilted. Then I have a mesh pocket over here that I can carry my charge cord or any other thing that I want to. And another thing, that binding came out so much easier with the waterproof canvas, and I cut it at 1 1/8 inch wide and using the double stick tape on both sides, and it's a 1/4 inch double stick tape. The other thing I did was to make my handles a little bit longer than the pattern called for because I would like to carry this bag on my arm like a purse. Now I really do hope you'll make one of these bags, whether it is for the sew along or sometime in the future. But overall, I know you won't be disappointed. Now, if you are joining us in the sew along, all the details will either be over at Sophisticated Crafts Design Facebook group or Royal Pixie Custom Fabric Facebook group or on Instagram at SewHoneyBea. Okay, until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.